Let's do it. Sarah May, please give us your stance on Arizona water issues and what you will do to support Yuma's water rights while taking care of your district's constituents.
Well, again, it's a little bit more complex because I come from a tribal community, and so we do have water rights. And when I think about water, I think about, it's not just a drought crisis, it's also the chemicals that are going into our water that we have to consider. And even thinking about potable water as the solution is not the solution because of those chemicals. And so it's a deeper conversation that needs to be had. You may be protecting your water rights, but is that water safe that you are protecting? And so that's going to be the next discussion that needs to be had, because you have to talk to all of your industry about how you're utilizing that water. And ultimately what ends up coming back to us, the people. So again, whatever you think you're protecting, you have to have a deeper conversation.
Thank you. Red card?
Well, being from Yuma, we need to let the rest of the state know that we're actually in an 18-year drought, and they need to live like we're living in a desert and do a better job of conservation. So, I'll be a voice and continue to be a voice for conservation and for leaving water on the river and making sure that we have a drought contingency plan that's inclusive.
Yeah, I'll respond. Again, like I said, it is about protecting water, but again, what is it that you're protecting? And I just want to make that very clear that, you can have all the water in the world, but if it's contaminated, it's going to be a big issue for everybody. So that's just my rebuttal on that.
Tom?
Yes, I want to reiterate this. There is a storm coming over your water, and I've been saying it for months, and I'm telling you, it's coming sure as God's vengeance, and you better listen, and you better send somebody up there who's a warrior. And I've had 7 years to prove I'm a warrior.
Sarah, did you want to respond?
Yeah, I'll just say I think everybody is a warrior when it comes to water. It is very important. It is gold to everybody, and so we don't just have to protect it. We have to make sure that. Again, we're looking at industry and making sure that they're spending their water wisely so that there's enough to go around and sustain us well into the future.
Thank you. Jirai? Was the 20 by 2020 plan sufficient to take care of our educational system, or is more needed, and why? What can we do to fund additional monies?
No, it was not sufficient. As I stated earlier, we need a system that fully and permanently funds the educational system. The 20 by 20 does not. It's a situation of smoke and mirrors. The permanent funding was not there. And I think it has been mentioned previously, we need to revamp the educational funding formula so that it should not matter what zip code you live in, no matter where you live, you should get a good quality education. And that needs some very strategic financial strategy.
Thank you. Charlene? What border enforcement efforts or security measures should the state's government support or fund in other ways, and why?
Thank you so much. I think our federal government is doing a fine job of guarding our border and doing the work that they should be doing. I really don't think the state has any business guarding our border. I think our federal government, we have many levels of it that have security on the border, and I would stand by them.
Thank you. Lisa, regarding Arizona businesses, in what ways would you either A, free up or alter regulations, or B, add to regulations and oversight?
Thank you. First of all, I want to say, as a former businesswoman, I do understand the problems that are encountered with regulatory problems. So I understand that. But there's always a balance when it comes to business. There's a balance for the good of the environment, there's a balance for consumer safety, and there is a balance that will still allow our businesses to grow. There are no single answers. Every piece of legislation that is brought before needs to be debated, vetted, and have the stakeholders, those who know the most, come forward and speak. And I want to really put an emphasis on consumer protection, especially if we look at something like the predatory loans.
Thank you. Thomas, The legislature tried to pass many bills that eliminate local control for cities and counties. What is your position on introducing bills that supersede city control, and why?
I hate it. There are many instances the past several years when we tried to have a gun buyback program, and the state legislature came back, slammed that down, made that inappropriate. Bisbee's plastic bags, I mean, it goes on. I am totally against that. If it is good for the environment, if it is good for the local control or for the local community, I think they should go on, as long as it doesn't go against the Constitution of the United States or the Constitution of the state, and it is brings prosperity to us and a better lifestyle. Thank you.
Got a red card?
Yeah, thank you. I've actually run a lot of legislation opposing local control. I'm kind of known for it. That's why most of the city governments hate me. When individual owners of property or businesses wish to do something and cities are stopping them from doing that, I oppose it.
You oppose my
Trey.
statement, you oppose the...
Thomas, did you want to record a second to respond?
I'm sorry.
You have 30 seconds to respond.
Okay, what am I responding to is the question. I didn't hear the full...
I didn't see your question either.
I
So.
can't use that. You can repeat it.
Okay. No, I guess 30 seconds now, right? Time. You go to California, they've done a lot of stuff. They've gotten rid of styrofoam, they've made people go to paper bags, and what has it done? Yeah, it has created a lot of jobs over there also. You get rid of the plastic bags over here, what's it gonna do? You have to find another market. Somebody's gonna have to start creating some new, well, just like California, they're gonna have to create things that you can carry out food in paper. I remember in Chicago, running on the lakefront. You look at all the trees in the lakefront,
Time.
20,000 bags.
Trey, next question. The legislative district split Yuma County and blended it with other areas. What would you do to ensure Yuma has a seat at the table, so to speak, alongside the bigger metro areas?
Yeah, so this district is a very large one. When we talk about water, water is not a partisan issue. Most of us, Republicans and Democrats, actually agree on this water issue. It's a regional issue. And something that I bring to the table is I have so many legislators, members of the legislature from around the state that have supported me and endorsed me, especially rural legislators. And it's something that I'm going to be able to bring to the table as far as amplifying Yuma's voice and ensuring that these groups aren't just going to come and dictate policy on us. Yuma's water rights predate statehood. We are going to defend that, just like I'm going to defend every corner of my district.
Thank you. Joanne, when was the last time you visited a public school or quality early education program, and what did you learn from your visit?
Well, thank you. Actually, on the city council, I had started the citywide reading challenge that yearly our kids did a month-long reading challenge from kindergarten to 8th grade. And it was just a way to get the kids to read. And every class that won the grade level throughout the city, I came and I'm good at teaching children how to shake hands and award them for what they've done for reading. So I am always in the classroom talking to the kids, talking to the teachers and seeing what's going on. I'm not there to control it. I'm there just to be their partner because we want our kids to read at their level and we want them to have the greatest of futures.
Thank you. Tim? The legislature seems determined to manage cities' abilities to sell surplus property. What is your position on the issue? Is the state trying to usurp local control?
The state is trying to use resources that aren't being used whenever those buildings have been closed and the school systems weren't using them. So I believe when the local school boards decided not to use them, the state's trying to take that and turn it into cash so they can put money back into the system. And so as long as the school boards have turned it over to the state, I think the state can utilize and work on selling those so they cannot stay defunct.
Thank you. Darren? Given the situation between the Arizona Department of Water Resources and the Central Arizona Water Conservation District, how would you view any legislation granting sovereign immunity to CAP?
Well, CAP already believes it has sovereign immunity. So I think the question is part of the debate that we had last session on on this issue is it a broad sovereign immunity or not? And so it actually, like all water policy, gets very detailed and very complicated. And so if it was a limited sovereign immunity that only covered certain areas, that would probably be acceptable. If it was a broad sovereign immunity, in which, and by the way, they've agreed to that, then it probably wouldn't be acceptable. But all of this is part of the process that Lisa's involved in right now for next session and coming to some understanding. It's all gonna be part of the stakeholder process. But for me to say one way or the other right now, I'd have to look at the entire picture.
Red card?
I've sat, for the last 2 years, I've sat on the Arizona Municipal Water Users Association, and last year, the #1 issue was not allowing sovereign immunity to occur. That has to be clear and understood. The next thing was the fact that we were not dealing with the drought contingency plan.
Darren?
30 seconds.
30 seconds.
So, yes, it was the issue. It was one of two major issues, and it was a catch point for sure. But that's the point. That was one of the two major issues, and that was why we had a stalled situation. One of the reasons we stalled on this debate. So it's an issue that we will, one side says that there's a limited sovereign immunity, the other side that doesn't want any sovereign immunity, and actually in private, both sides have agreed to a limited sovereign immunity. So we'll go forward on this next year, but it's not black and white, and it's something that will be negotiated at large.
Thank you. Michelle? If Highway 95 was widened from Yuma to Quartzsite and Interstate 10, it would be a tremendous benefit to southwestern Arizona. Would you support or oppose a funding effort for this, and why?
I would support a funding effort for that. I believe we do need to work on transportation, particularly out in Yuma County, opening up access for both goods and services, and transportation just in general. These are the kind of issues that we should be working on and solving up at the state legislature, particularly for the Yuma area.
Thank you. Sina? Would you be willing to spend time to not initiate the passage of any new laws and work on the elimination of many of the laws already on the books? Why or why not?
You know, I think each new law bears its own merit. Definitely, we worked a lot this session on reducing burdensome regulations or redundant regulations in different agencies. So, you know, some laws are good. They reduce regulation, they reduce redundancy, and that frees up those agencies to operate more efficiently. And then, you know, there's then, you know, laws that that we, you know, don't need to put through. I think there was nearly, or tomorrow, I think nearly 400 laws will go into effect, and I think that's plenty.
Thank you. Brent? We could gain millions of dollars for roads every year by having driver's licenses renewed every 5 years. What is your position on that idea, and why?
I would not support that. I like the system the way it is. The Arizona Department of Transportation comes out with a STIP, the State Transportation Implementation Plan, for 5 years. I looked at that yesterday. I support the state STIP plan. Funding is there for Arizona for 5 years. They look at that at various jurisdictions and timelines. So yeah, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Okay, thank you. Don?
Yes, ma'am.
The Public Safety Personnel Retirement System Fund is managed at the state level, but the burden falls on the cities. What do you think could be done to fix the system?
Well, it's pretty complex, but we've been working on it for a few years, and the problem is, well, it's not a problem, it's just a factor. You can't reduce people's pension benefits, so the only way to do it is adjust incoming members, and that's the only way you can do it.
Thank you. Okay, let's end round 3. On to the last